High in the Montana Rockies, veteran ranger Sam Miller faced a storm of the century. Suddenly, a massive grizzly mother blocked his path, her eyes filled with a desperate plea that would lead him to a truly heartbreaking discovery. Sam slammed on the brakes of his Ford F-150. The tires skidded on the black ice. Heart pounding, he reached for his sidearm. This wasn't just any bear. This was a 1,200-pound grizzly, and she was standing right in the middle of the logging road. But she wasn't growling, she wasn't charging, she was crying. The massive beast stood on her hind legs. She reached a height of nearly 9 feet. To any sane man, this was a death sentence. Sam's breath came in ragged gasps, fogging up the windshield. He had served in the 101st Airborne. He had seen combat. But this was different. The bear began to beat her paws against the frozen ground. She let out a low, mournful moan that vibrated through the truck's metal frame. Then she did something impossible. She turned her head toward a steep, jagged cliff and pointed with her snout. She looked back at Sam, her eyes locking onto his with an intelligence that felt almost human. It was a look of pure, unadulterated agony. Sam felt a chill that had nothing to do with the Montana winter. He realized she wasn't hunting. She was begging. Suddenly, the bear lunged toward the passenger side window. Sam flinched, expecting the glass to shatter, but she only tapped it gently with a single, blunt claw. She let out a soft whimper, then started running toward the ravine, stopping every few yards to make sure he was following. Sam's logic told him to drive away, but his heart, the heart of a man who never left a soldier behind, told him to move. He shifted the truck into gear and followed her into the white abyss. The tension in the cabin eased slightly as Sam drove. He radioed back to the station. "Sarah, you there? I've got a situation. A grizzly is leading me toward Dead Man's Pass." Sarah's voice came through the static, sounding worried. "Sam, the storm is worsening. You need to turn back. That's a predator, not a guide." But Sam knew what he saw. He told himself it was just a hunch. Stay with me, because what Sam found next would make a grown man weep. As he drove, Sam thought about his old dog, Duke. Duke had passed away a year ago. Since then, the cabin felt empty. This park, Glacier National Park, was Sam's home. He knew these mountains better than his own backyard. He had spent 30 years protecting this land. He had rescued hikers from cliffs and cleared trails after fires, but he had never seen a grizzly act like this. These animals are solitary. They are proud. For one to ask for help, that meant something was terribly wrong. The wind began to howl like a pack of wolves. The snow was falling so fast Sam could barely see his own hood. Suddenly, a bright red light flashed on his dashboard. The fuel sensor was haywire. Then a loud bang echoed from under the truck. The steering wheel jerked violently to the left. "Not now," Sam hissed. He hopped out into the knee-deep snow. The wind nearly knocked him over. He looked at his front tire. It was shredded by a sharp piece of granite. He was stuck. Miles from the station, a blizzard closing in, and a giant grizzly mother watching him from the shadows of the pines. The bear approached him. Sam froze. She was only 10 feet away now. He could smell her, wet fur and pine needles. She let out a sharp, urgent huff. She wasn't going to let him fix the tire. She pushed her head against his shoulder, nudging him toward the ravine. It was a physical plea. Sam grabbed his medical kit and a heavy flashlight. Okay, I'm coming," he shouted over the wind. He left the safety of the truck. Every step was a struggle. The snow was freezing his face. His old knees ached with every movement. He felt his oxygen getting low in the thin mountain air. Just as they reached the edge of the cliff, the ground beneath Sam's feet gave way. He slid down the embankment, tumbling through thorns and ice. He landed hard at the bottom, the wind knocked out of him. For a moment, everything went black. He thought this was the end. He was a 60-year-old man lying in a ditch in the middle of a storm. But then, he heard it, a tiny, high-pitched squeal. It wasn't the mother bear. It was coming from deep within a pile of fallen trees and boulders. The mother grizzly began to dig frantically, her claws throwing dirt and ice into the air. Sam scrambled to his feet, his adrenaline surging. He realized what was happening. This was a grave, a living grave. Sam wiped the blood from a small cut on his forehead. He turned on his heavy-duty flashlight. The beam cut through the dark. He saw the mother bear stop digging and look at him. She was exhausted. Her paws were bleeding. She moved aside, giving him space. You won't believe the danger that was lurking just feet away in the shadows. Sam noticed something else in the snow. Tracks. Not bear tracks. They were smaller with sharp claw marks. Mountain lions. A pair of them had been circling this spot. They were waiting for the mother grizzly to tire out so they could move in. The mother bear wasn't just fighting the weather. She was guarding her babies from the most silent killers in the woods. Sam knelt by the pile of debris. He could see a small opening between two massive pine trunks. Inside, two tiny cubs were shivering. They were barely a few months old. Their fur was matted with ice. They were trapped behind a heavy slab of rock that had shifted during the landslide. I see them, Mama, Sam whispered. But as he reached for a pry bar in his kit, he heard a low growl. It didn't come from the grizzly. It came from the ridge above. Two mountain lions emerged from the tree line. Their eyes glowed yellow in the light of his flashlight. They were thin, hungry, and desperate. Usually, a mountain lion wouldn't dream of attacking a grizzly. But this mother was weak. She had been digging for hours. She was vulnerable. The mother grizzly turned. She let out a roar that shook the very ground Sam stood on. It was a sound of pure defiance. She stood between Sam and the lions. She was acting as his shield. Sarah, I need backup at the ravine. Predators on sight. Sam yelled into his radio. The storm has grounded the choppers, Sam. You're on your own for at least 20 minutes. Sam knew he didn't have 20 minutes. The lions were inching closer. They were smart. One moved to the left, the other to the right. They were flanking. The mother bear lunged at the one on the left, but her legs slipped on the ice. She let out a pained whimper. She was hurt. Sam had to make a choice. He pulled out a flare gun from his vest. It was his only weapon besides his sidearm, and he didn't want to kill unless he had to. He aimed the flare into the air and fired. Whoosh! A brilliant red light erupted, illuminating the entire canyon. The lions hissed and retreated into the brush, blinded by the sudden glare. But the flare wouldn't last long. Sam turned back to the rocks. We have to move now, he told the bear. He jammed the pry bar under the stone slab. He pushed with all his might. His muscles screamed. He felt a pop in his shoulder. The rock didn't budge. The cubs inside were crying louder now. The sound was heartbreaking. It sounded like human babies. Sam looked at the mother bear. She saw his struggle. She walked over, placed her massive shoulder against the rock next to his pry bar, and pushed. It was a sight no one would believe. A man and a grizzly, working together in perfect rhythm. On three, Sam yelled, though he knew she couldn't understand the words. 1, 2, 3. With a sickening crack, the rock shifted. It rolled down the slope. The opening was clear. Sam reached in, his hands shaking. He pulled out the first cub. It was cold, so cold. He tucked it inside his heavy wool jacket, right against his chest. He reached for the second. But as he pulled the second cub out, he realized it wasn't moving. Its eyes were closed. Its little body was limp. The mother bear let out a sound that broke Sam's heart. It was a soft, broken woof. She sniffed the cub in Sam's arms and then looked at him with a gaze that asked, "Is my baby gone?" The wind died down for a second, leaving a haunting silence. Sam held the small life in his hands. He felt tears prickling his eyes. He had saved so many things in his life, but he couldn't bear to lose this one. Not after everything this mother had done. Not after she had trusted him. Suddenly, the sound of an engine broke the silence. Sarah had disobeyed orders. She had taken the heavy-duty snowcat from the station. The headlights swept across the ravine. She jumped out, carrying a warm blanket and a heater. "Sam, are you okay?" she screamed. "The cub, it's not breathing," Sam yelled back. Sarah scrambled down the slope. She was a trained vet as well as a biologist. She took the limp cub from Sam. The mother bear stood over them, her massive shadow looming. She could have crushed them both in a second, but she stood perfectly still. She knew they were trying to help. "He's in shock, Sam. His heart is barely beating," Sarah said. She began to rub the cub's chest vigorously. Sam took the other cub, the one that was still crying, and wrapped it in a warm towel. The mountain lions were back. They were watching from the edge of the light. Sam stood up, his tall frame blocking the wind. He grabbed a second flare and held it like a torch. "Not today," he roared at the darkness. "Back off." Inside the circle of light, the struggle for life continued. Sarah was using 2 fingers to perform tiny chest compressions on the cub. "Come on, little guy. Breathe for me," she whispered. Minutes felt like hours. The snow began to bury them. Sam's hands were numb. He couldn't feel his toes, but he didn't care. He kept his eyes on the mother bear. She was leaning her head down, her warm breath blowing over the cub as Sarah worked. It was like she was trying to give her baby her own warmth. Suddenly, the cub's tiny paw twitched, then a small, wet cough. The cub opened its eyes and let out a weak, raspy cry. Sam felt a weight lift off his chest that he hadn't even known was there. He let out a breath he had been holding for an eternity. The mother bear let out a deep, rumbling purr. She licked the cub's head, her tongue almost as big as the baby's entire body. "We need to get them to the snowcat," Sam said. "They won't survive the night out here in this wind." They carried the cubs to the vehicle. The mother Grizzly followed right behind them, limping but determined. They laid the cubs on a heated mat in the back of the snowcat. Sam looked at Sarah. "We have to take her too. She's injured." "Sam, we can't put a grizzly in a snowcat," Sarah argued. "Look at her, Sarah. She's not a beast right now. She's a mother." The grizzly didn't wait for an invite. She climbed into the back, curled her massive body around her cubs, and looked at Sam. For the first time that night, she looked at peace. The ride back to the station was quiet. The heater was humming. The cubs were nursing. Sam sat in the back with them, his hand resting near the mother's flank. She didn't flinch. She knew he was a friend. He thought about how often we think we are so different from the world around us. But that night, there was no difference. Just 3 souls trying to survive the storm. When they reached the station, the storm had finally broken. The stars were coming out, bright and cold over the peaks. They moved the bear family into a large, warm enclosure used for injured wildlife. Sarah spent the night monitoring the cubs. By morning, they were tumbling over each other, playing in the hay. The mother bear was eating a large salmon Sam had brought from the freezer. Her leg was bruised but not broken. But then, Sam noticed something. The mother bear wouldn't stop looking at the door. She kept pacing. She wasn't happy. "What is it, girl?" Sam asked. Suddenly, a low howl came from outside the enclosure. It wasn't a wolf. It was another bear. Sam opened the outer gate, his heart racing. Standing in the moonlight was a smaller grizzly, the father. He had been searching for them. The mother bear didn't run. She waited. The father bear walked in, his nose twitching. He saw the cubs. He let out a soft huff. The family was whole again. Sam stood back, watching the 4 of them. The father bear turned his head towards Sam. He didn't growl. He simply stood there for a long moment, a silent acknowledgement of the man who had saved his lineage. Then the father nudged the mother. They began to walk out of the gate, back toward the mountains. The cubs followed, their little tails bobbing in the snow. Just before they disappeared into the trees, the mother bear stopped. She turned around. She looked at Sam one last time. She let out a single loud roar, not of anger, but of triumph. It echoed off the granite walls of the canyon, a song of thanks that Sam would hear in his dreams for the rest of his life. Sam stood in the snow, his eyes wet with tears. He felt a sense of pride he hadn't felt since he wore the uniform. He had saved a family. He had proven that even in the harshest winter, kindness is the strongest force on earth. Sam went back inside and poured a cup of coffee. The sun was rising over the mountains, painting the snow in shades of pink and gold. The park was quiet. The danger was gone. He looked at his hands. They were scarred and bruised, but they were steady. "Good job, Sam," Sarah said, placing a hand on his shoulder. "No," Sam smiled, looking out at the vast wilderness. "Good job, Mama Bear." That night changed Sam forever. It reminded him that every life has a story, and every plea deserves an answer. If this story touched your heart, please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Sam's bravery. And if you want to see more incredible rescues like this, click the next video on your screen. There are so many more heroes out there waiting to be found. Thank you for watching.